In 2002, Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger's 7-year marriage officially ended, but the custody battle over their 11-year-old daughter, Ireland, rages on 6 years later. This battle made headlines again last week after a blistering voicemail from Alec to Ireland found its way to media outlets. And he's here for the first time, and he says his only interview, to tell us what he says drove him to the edge and let us understand more about the story. Please welcome Alec Baldwin.
First of all, I want to say, and you both know better than I do how this business works, I got a huge bouquet of flowers from Don Imus.
Did you really?
And no.
One doesn't know.
No.
You haven't lost your sense of humor.
Exactly. But how are you? How are you doing?
Well, I want to just say, because I've thought a lot about this, and there are limitations on what you can say and what you should say under these circumstances, and that's a part of the problem, I think. And I want to say that I've learned 3 things. I've learned many things, but I've learned 3 things as a result of this first situation. One is that my deep, deep, deep and seemingly endless frustration about this situation, which is complicated, led me to end up saying something to someone that I really meant to say to someone else. Mm. And I've learned that to be angry, there's nothing wrong with being angry.
You didn't mean to say it to your child.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being frustrated or angry about something. It's the way you do it, and as people often do in this world, I took it out on the wrong person because I'm unable under the current dynamic to address the other person.
Right.
And I realized that, you know, that was wrong.
Can we say who it is, or we're not allowed to?
Well, everyone knows, but it's just, you know.
You said it to your daughter and you meant it for your ex-wife.
Well, I think that goes without saying.
Okay.
Yes.
But and the other thing is that another thing that I learned, which was really amazing to me, and I really learned this on the deepest level, is how many people in the world and how many people out there that communicate to you through the internet and through other situations feel themselves to be abused by a parent or wounded by a parent or hurt by their parent. And you can't imagine how many people would email me on my website. I have a website, alecbaldwin.com, you know, like a lot of people in the business. And they would email me and they would tear into me in a very, very kind of corrosive way. But I understood that they were people who they themselves had been attacked, berated, abused, so forth. In my own case, this message, I had never done that before in my life. I want to say I had yelled at my daughter to watch out, you might get hit by a car on Central Park West, you know what I mean, or you got to get out of the riptide in the ocean. But I had never done this before in my life, and I realized that a lot of the response that I get from people is them feeling their own pain. But I just want to finish this one thing. And the third thing I learned, which has also been really unbelievable to me, is how much the people, and I think both of you know this, and you in particular in your career, is how much the people in the tabloid media are themselves people who are abused and are people who live with shameful secrets, and they make it their career to humiliate you and expose your secrets. Like the guy that's responsible for this tape coming out, we don't need to say his name, that doesn't really, it doesn't matter. The guy that's responsible, I called some friends of mine in LA and I said, what's his story? And they told me his story, what he's all about, where he's coming from, what are his secrets, you know what I mean? And you find out that everybody who works in tabloid media are people who are filled with self-hatred and shame. And the way that they manage those feelings is that they destroy the lives of other people and reveal your secrets. And I thought to myself, you know, it's like I couldn't get over how, you know, they could beat you all day long, you know.
After this happened, because, you know, you do love your child and people know that, have you talked to Ireland? Where do things stand now?
Well, that falls into the category of something that I can't talk about because there's going to be ongoing procedures and so forth and things like that. I'm writing this book because.
Well, can you tell us if you talked to her since?
I can't discuss any of that.
You can't discuss any of that.
No. Oh, well, I either can't or I prefer not to.
Okay,
but lawyers will tell you. But the thing is that my friends. My close friends and my family and my colleagues, they all know what's been done to me. My own mother doesn't have a phone number to call my daughter. My ex-wife would take my daughter to her hometown and take my daughter all around to see all of her mother's family except her own mother because my ex-wife has a ceaseless feud with her mother. And my ex-mother-in-law, who I'm still friendly with, would call me on the phone and start sobbing and say, "What do you think you and I have done to deserve to be treated like this?" My ex-mother-in-law just called me the other day because the child went this spring to go to this area, and the mother took the kid on a tour to meet every single relative except the child's maternal grandmother. So the parental alienation that I've been experiencing has a ripple effect that affects countless other people.
Now, surely you know that, when people heard the message, which was really never supposed to be leaked, it was a private conversation between, you, the message machine, and your daughter, was leaked to the press. The problem that most people had, I think, was the use of the word pig.
Yeah, I think that what had happened at that point was I had reached a point, and I think if you're going to take a break pretty soon.
About 2 minutes?
No,
yeah.
well, here's what happens. In divorce litigation, there's a thing called the right of first refusal. And in that, if you and I are divorced and you have primary custody and you travel to go to work, you are obligated to give me the child.
Right.
You have joint custody. Yes? No?
We have joint legal custody. I mean, the terms you're using.
Okay,
no, but I'm going to explain to you.
Because there are two sides to this. There are always to every story. There are two sides. Go ahead.
Right, but I'm not discussing that. What I'm saying is that in the right of first refusal orders that I have that were given to me by a judge,
right.
If she goes away, she has to give me the child. And we knew that she didn't do that 3 consecutive times in a row. And so we went to the court, and the judges do nothing to protect your rights if you're a man in California. Nothing. And the judge in this case said, we think that she's violated this order, and the judge was like, well, so what do you want me to do about it? You file a contempt suit. They always want you to be the bad guy to humiliate the other person to keep the litigation going. So we pressed a contempt charge because the judge forced us to. We had no other outlet for enforcement. And then they finally said, we will acquiesce and we will obey the order. I was given my daughter. I had 2 blissful weeks with my daughter. And I'm not talking about the Disney dad syndrome where it's taking her shopping and going to dinner and this. I mean, I'm making the kid toast. I'm doing her homework. I'm standing in a room and the phone rings and she says, "I forgot my ballet shoes. Will you go get the ballet shoes for me?" And I'm sitting there going, "Will I go get the ballet shoes for you? You bet I'll go get the ballet shoes for you. That's why I'm here." It was just great. The mother comes home and the phone gets turned off and I don't speak to the child again for 10 days. And what you learn in parental alienation is that affection for the alienated parent or loyalty to the alienated parent is portrayed as betrayal of the custodial parent. And that parent communicates in very subtle and not so subtle terms that this person is not a part of my life and I don't want anything to do with them, and I don't want you to either. And they violate court orders, and they force you to keep this thing going. And this is why, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, is why I would sit in rooms years ago when this process began for me, and men would look at me, and the tears would well up in their eyes. And they were men who loved their children. And prior to their divorce, no one had doubted that they loved their children. But once these lawyers dragged them into this process, they went through this thing, and they wrote off those children, and they wrote off that family. I'd look at a guy and I'd say, Bob, where are you now? He says, I'm remarried, I have a wonderful wife, and I have 2 kids, and I never see my kids from my first marriage. He says, I had to write it off.
That's a tragic
And that's
thing.
what's happened, you know. So that's what happens to a lot of people.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk more about how this has affected your career and what decisions you have recently made that you want to tell people about. We'll be back with Alec Baldwin right after this.